Good morning. My name is Megan Blocker, and I lead Research and Insights at Justworks. And I'm here to talk to you today about my belief that decision-making is an organizational superpower. And I contend that that's true, but I would also contend that most organizations treat it like an afterthought. So back when I was leading user research at McKinsey, I once watched this fully staffed cross-functional team go into a strategy session with their leadership. They had solid research, they had usage data, they had the luxury of not only a great product manager and designer, but a UX researcher and a data analyst dedicated to their product portfolio. And still, they struggled to come to a decision on where to take their product. They walked out not with clear direction and forward momentum, but with more questions, ambiguity, and yet another week lost. And this was not an unusual scenario. I saw it play out again and again across multiple teams. The problem wasn't talent or access, it was the missing capability of decisiveness. And I consider that the ability to gather data, distill it into insight, and turn that insight into confident, well-timed action. And when decisiveness is missing, roadmaps drift, teams spin, and trust erodes. So we talk a lot about being data-driven. A lot of us are researchers, we love data, but decision-making is not just about data. It's a capability and it exists across people, process, and organizational structure. And to build it, we need a shared language that crosses disciplines. We need clear expectations for how insight turns into action. We need structures that make that action possible. And we need leadership, most of all, that enforces real accountability for making and acting on decisions. Because again, the ability to make good decisions quickly is a competitive advantage, but we don't treat it that way. So when I saw this happening in my organization, my response was to build the very sexily named Insights Fluency Model. My goal was not to grade teams on how they were using data, but rather to help them build the habits that make confident decision-making possible and repeatable at scale. The goal was to have them assess their own behavior against the model and then work together with experts from across the organization to address any gaps. I'm going to talk a little bit about what the model looked like just to give you a sense. So the first element of the model was gather and generate. Are we using the right inputs inclusively and effectively? Own and access. Do we know where our data lives and can we trust it? Finding meaning, the fun part for researchers. Can we synthesize that data, quantitative, qualitative, what have you, into something actionable? Measure and monitor. Are we aligned on what success looks like and how we're going to track progress toward it? And last, very important, decide, strategize, and prioritize. Are the insights that we're distilling from this data, do they shape our roadmaps? Are they shaping our OKRs? And are they informing our investments and the bets that we make? Each of these dimensions had a path from beginner to leader-level behaviors rather than skills, and it wasn't a checklist. The goal was to provide a roadmap to decision fluency. So I built this model during a time of real tension on the team. We had product managers who didn't know how to engage with these new data analysts who'd been brought into their teams. Researchers were struggling to get buy-in from the analysts on using qualitative data alongside the quantitative, and everyone was defaulting to these activity-based OKRs that looked really nice and tidy on the page, but said nothing about outcomes or impact. I saw what was happening, and I knew we needed some way to define what good, scalable, repeatable decision-making looked like, and to help teams really build that muscle. So I gathered a cross-functional team of UX researchers and data analysts, and I got them together, and I said, let's define a model. And we weren't just focused on improving research or analytics. Instead, we were designing a model so that teams could really honestly assess themselves at that team level. The goal was to be able to coach across roles, right? It doesn't matter what your title is. This is about what your team is able to accomplish together. And we were also looking at rolling this out at scale. We're talking more than 20 teams with different functions, different disciplines, and multiple operating structures. So we've all seen fluency models before. Already today, we've had a reference to career ladders and rubrics, so I want to talk a little bit about what I think makes this one a little bit different. So first, I've mentioned this already, but it's team-based, it's not individual. The goal is to build habits, not celebrate individual rock stars. It's accountability focused. It gives leaders a way to ask, and I would actually say insist that they ask, are we measuring value or are we just reporting on data? and it holds them accountable for defining and measuring success. It's organization agnostic, but also organization sensitive. So it works in a centralized model where you have research and analytics living together in the middle. It works when those folks are embedded into your teams, or some kind of mix of the two. And of course, it makes decision-making visible. Like Toto, it pulls back that curtain and improves not just what teams are building and the outcomes that they're achieving, but also ensures that that thinking and those insights are really transparent and visible to the whole team. So what was the impact? We saw that teams made stronger business cases, which of course led to better customer impact and ultimately business value. Decision speed increased, so there was less ambiguity and fewer of those horrible spin cycles that make you want to tear your hair out. Researchers and analysts built these great trusting relationships with one another and with their teams, making work a lot more fun. Goodbye to the Sunday scaries. And perhaps most importantly, we gave teams the shared language for collaboration, so they all knew what everyone around them was saying. They could collaborate so much more easily and productively. Of course, this took a lot of investment, right? So teams had to really look honestly at their gaps. There was a real moment of humility and reflection in being able to say, hey, like, this is a thing we're great at. This is a thing we're not so great at. Let's figure out how to get better at it together. Leaders had to role model the behavior. This is really hard, right? If you want your teams to make good decisions that account for impact, you have to model that. And of course, time, right? It took time to build the model, it took time to get people to assess themselves, and then of course, when you're building skills and changing behavior, that takes time. So there was some patience built into this. But you can't delegate this work, you can't just say, go do it. You really have to sponsor it and create the environment for it. So that element of time is really critical. So here's how I see it. Design has systems, engineering has runbooks, strategy has OKRs, but most organizations are still just kind of freestyling decision-making. But Insights Fluency gives teams a repeatable way to move from data to action. And it gives leaders, excuse me, it gives leaders a way to purposefully build decision quality and the measurement of success into their cultures. And this might be the thing I'm proudest of from this work. Identifying this gap, building this system, and making it scalable, it wasn't just about research. This was about executive leadership that came from UX. I saw the pattern, I built the system, and I made it easier for others to act with confidence. And I think that's the opportunity for all of us gathered here today, right? We don't have to wait for someone else to tell us, like, make it strategic. If we create the conditions for better decisions, we are the executives. And so I'll leave you with this challenge, one of many questions that we've ended presentations with in the last 2 days, but how will you turn decision-making into a superpower for your organization? Thank you.